Sahanau bhunaktu sahaviryam karavavahai tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
We're going to be here today and the next 3 days to discuss one of the most fascinating chapters of the Bhagavad Gita, the 15th chapter, which deals with Purushottama Yoga. And we'll shortly see as the verses unravel the mystery, the depth, the magnificence of this chapter. But before we get into this chapter, let's take a look at why is it that we need to study the Bhagavad Gita, especially in today's day and age when we're looking forward to economic growth, we're looking forward to taking on the world as a nation, we're looking forward to to conquering the world. What is the role of the Bhagavad Gita? Why do we have to go back to a text that is 5,000 years old? Because, let's say, before we embark on anything like learning music, or playing a game like cricket, or even a performing art like dance, what is it that you need to know before you get on to it? You need to know the rules of the game, the rules of music, the rules of dance, etc. And once you've mastered the basics, then you can play around. You improvise, you innovate, you improve. Like for instance, let's take the case of music. Once a person learns the basic notes of a particular raga, then in a performance, the musician unravels, plays around with the notes and unravels divinity, as it were, in and through the notes. So there is improvisation there. Cricket, you find an outstanding player improvising, perhaps playing an unorthodox shot, but in the end excelling. Same thing with dance. This is not possible unless you master the basics. Similarly, in life, let's take an example. Luggage in the olden days olden days means just 50 years ago, less than 50 years ago. People used to carry around heavy trunks made of iron, and these trunks used to weigh more than the contents. Very difficult to carry, very ungainly, ugly. And from there, what amount of development has taken place. So then we went on to lighter material like leather. Then we went on to light yet sturdy material. And then they put wheels on them, 2 wheels. So you could drag it along. And today you have this fascinating concept, I don't know whether you've seen it. A bag that weighs 25 kilos can be pulled by a child. Why? Because it has 4 wheels and you can turn it around. The maneuverability is outstanding. This is just one example. Let's get back to our lives. We are still in the trunk stage. Why? Because we have to work slog 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day. For what? For what? Just to earn a living. Just to make both ends meet. Just to have the basics on which you say, someday I will develop. So everyone says, let me work these 16, 18 hours a day, and once I have enough money stashed, I can think about enjoying. That day never comes. So it leads to stress, and as a result, you have no time for the finer things of life. No time to sit down and read an enjoyable book. No time to sit down and listen to elevating music. And certainly no time for Vedanta. The scriptures is a far cry. Anytime you ask a person, why don't you come and not here, any spiritual activity. Oh, I wish I could, but I have no time. Nobody seems to have the time for themselves. Now what Vedanta says, what Bhagavad Gita says is that earning a living should be in what we call as auto mode. Auto mode, it should happen naturally, effortlessly, automatically. By this we are not saying you shouldn't put effort. But you put in the requisite effort, you decide this is the standard of living that I want to live. Once you achieve that, or while you are achieving it, thereafter you have your mind free to focus on more important things. Today, people at the age of 80 are still busy earning a living. They never seem to have enough. When are they going to get down to enjoying life is the thing. And why does this happen? This happens because we don't know the basics. We don't know the rules of the game of life. You cannot, it's as ridiculous as even the most talented person, a Sachin Tendulkar, a Dhoni, a Yuvraj Singh, playing cricket without knowing the rules. You've just seen in Pakistan what happened. What happened? At least this you should be able to answer. Inzamam got out because he did not know a rule, or at least he didn't comply with the rule. And so also all of us, because we don't know the rules of the game, we haven't learned the rules, we're not abiding by the rules, we get out, clean bowled by life. And therefore this is where the Bhagavad Gita steps in, because it gives us an idea of what the rules of life are. Let's take a brief look at these rules before we get on with the study of the Gita, because what these rules achieve is to make your mind calm. You see, the human being is the only species in the world that is endowed with this fundamental gift of remaining calm, tranquil, in the midst of disturbances outside, in the midst of chaos and confusion outside. This is a gift that is not available to any other species. But are we exercising this? No. We are at the mercy of the changes of the world. Every time there is the slightest fluctuation in the world, we get totally under the weather, affected, distressed, disturbed. And in this state of disturbance, where the mind is agitated, your talent, your gift, your skills become hopelessly inaccessible. This is the exam time, right? This is what happens to students. They go well prepared, they know the subject backward and forward. And yet when they go into the exam hall, what happens? The mind gets into an agitation. The student is not able to even read the paper properly, and therefore does miserably in the exam. So why does failure come? Not because you don't know it, not because you don't have the knowledge. Failure comes because at the crucial moment, exactly when you want your mind to be tranquil, the mind is in a hyperactive state, agitated, disturbed. So the challenge before us human beings is that in a disturbed environment, in a world which has a constantly fluctuating pattern of events unfolding, how can you and I, the human being, remain samam, is what the Gita says. And therefore, in order to remain samam, in order to remain tranquil, what are the rules? What is it that we need to follow? Number one, the intellect, the buddhi, must govern, control, guide, supervise the activities of the mind and the senses. The mind is that which feels, which is full of likes and dislikes, which has impulses, but it has no sense of direction. It has no discriminating ability. This is the prerogative of the intellect. So, as humans, we are endowed with an intellect because as humans, we also have what is known as a choice of action. As Shakespeare says in Hamlet, to be or not to be, that is the question. Now, the choice before all of us in the present circumstances is what? To eat chicken or not to eat chicken. Because of bird flu. It's not the bird that has flu, there's nothing wrong with the bird. Problem is we have chicken brain, that's why all this has happened. So on, we have various choices, and since we have choices, we need to know what to choose in life, and that's why the intellect is available to us. No other creature has a problem because no other creature has a choice, and therefore no other creature needs an intellect. But in the present scenario, as against ancient India, in ancient India, along with other subjects like mathematics, geography, history, economics, perhaps information technology also, what they did was they infused the child's intellect with knowledge so that this intellect was well developed by the time the child grew to adulthood. But today, we learn everything except the strengthening of the intellect. And therefore, we are making choices with a poorly developed intellect, and this is the main cause of all our problems. So what's happening? The mind goes whichever way it wants. The senses go helter-skelter. The intellect is either asleep or not strong enough to hold the powerful senses and the mind. And as they say in Katha Upnishad, which gives the example of the chariot, where the horses represent the senses, the reins are the mind, the charioteer is the intellect. Since the intellect, the charioteer is not alert, not strong, not skillful, the horses go whichever way they want, the reins are loose, and the chariot crashes. And here we are, you and I, in this wonderful world in the 21st century, 2006, crashed. We are in various stages of crashing. Intellect must control the mind and the senses. The mind has beautiful emotions, but these emotions need to be guided by the intellect. The Gita does not say don't have emotions. The Gita simply says direct them properly. The Gita does not say don't enjoy the senses. The Gita just says make sure you enjoy them. Because if you indulge in them, you lose the enjoyment pretty soon. Next, at action level, we have a choice to function in a spirit of giving or function in a spirit of taking. Most of us function in a spirit of taking. Why? Because it gives immediate pleasure. It gives you pleasure in the here and now. Giving, even the thought of giving is painful. Right? But in the long term, it is the giver who really benefits. It's the giver who succeeds. Most importantly, as long as you function with an attitude of taking, you will be tormented, your mind will be disturbed, you will be in stress, you cannot avoid that. If you want your mind to be tranquil, there is only one way of doing it, and that is to function in a spirit of giving. Every moment of your life, from the moment you wake up till the time you go to sleep, from the moment you are born till the moment you die, our business as human beings is, as Krishna says in the 3rd chapter, function in a spirit of yajna. Why? Because again, as Krishna says, he says, this world is not for the non-sacrificer. It is impossible to survive with an attitude of taking as we see it. We are seeing it with our in our own lives. All our lives we functioned in an attitude of taking. What have we achieved? Take stock of your life. An intelligent person is one who quickly learns from mistakes. This is what Imran Khan said as a cricket commentator. He says the difference between a champion team and a losing team is a team of champions learns quickly from their mistakes. A weak team continues to make the same mistakes over and over again. And this is what we're doing. Weak as we are, we're making the same mistakes over and over again because we don't think. We don't take stock of our life. We don't look within. So, take a look within. It's about time. You can't say, I'll wait for next year, I'll wait for next month, I'll wait till my children's exams are over. There is no time. It's either now or never. So what happens when you function one outstanding thing about takers is they're constantly in a state of discontent. They believe that God has given them a raw deal in life. They believe that they don't have enough. What a tragedy. What a tragedy that you don't consider God wise enough to give you what you need. That power that takes care of the whole universe, that every spider and every snail and every ant and every cockroach is well taken care of. Have you gone out in the jungles and taken a look at birds? They look healthy. They have no doctors, veterinary surgeons to take care of them. They have nobody to cook food and give them, and yet they are in the pink of health. And you and me here in this urban jungle, we need in the United States it's much worse. Every day they take a look at how many vitamins they are taking, how much protein, how much carbohydrate. No other creature needs to do that. They are well taken care of. This is what happens when you are a taker. A giver is one who experiences abundance all his life, irrespective of what he has or does not have. It's a mental state, remember that. It has nothing to do with what you have physically or don't have. Take a look at Shabari. We have immortal examples in our scriptures. She had nothing. She was a tribal woman. And when Ram was passing by, she was a devotee of Ram. She wanted to offer something to him. She had nothing to offer. But she didn't sit there and say, oh God, why didn't you give me anything? I would have given Ram. She just gave what there was. There were wild berries around. She collected them, and this is called abundance. She just made sure that every berry that she offered to Ram was sweet. So she tasted them, each one of them, before she offered. Sudama was a person who was in the state of abundance. So much so that even when he was pressurized to go and ask Krishna for help, his first and last thought was, what can I give him? Magnificent thought. If only you and I can instill this thought in our lives, that every moment, we are all here, this moment, our first and last thought should be, what can I offer? What can I contribute? How can I make life better for someone else? And in this lies tremendous power. The moment you think, you don't have to give anything. Just the thought of giving makes you a monarch. As they say of every spiritually evolved person, they say, he had no servants, and yet people called him a master. He perhaps had no degrees, and people called him a teacher. He had no medicines, people called him a healer. He had no army, and yet kings were afraid of him. He did not conquer any nation militarily, and yet he conquered the whole world. This is what will happen to you if you instill this spirit of giving. Anybody at any point in time shifts his attitude, and by God, the world is at your feet. But you function with this attitude of taking, grabbing, taking what is not yours. Remember one thing, you will get what you deserve in life. This is a law. You don't need to ask for it, you don't need to search for it, you don't need to seek it. So leave that be. Focus on something more important. Focus on giving. Why must you give? Because you have been blessed with abundance. The other day I was going somewhere. Suddenly I realized there was some disturbance in my eyelid. Something had got in there. The fact that I was conscious of my eyelid once in my life, entire life, this was the first time that I was conscious of my eyelid. Suddenly I realized tremendous value of the eyelid. Something that you take for granted. There are people who have the eyelid, but they call, it's called the drooping eyelid, right? It doesn't go up and down like our eyelids do. Don't you think you need to thank someone for it? Don't you think you owe someone for it? Simple thing like an eyelid. Like this, we have millions and millions of things bestowed on us and we are blissfully unaware of it, blissfully unaware of the abundance. And it is our poverty of thinking that makes us believe that we don't have enough. This is the tragedy. And so shift your thinking. Even if you don't want to give, force yourself to give. Not because the world needs your largesse, but because you need to access this abundance within yourself. The power that you get by that, the shanti, the peace of mind that you get is amazing. Give yourself a chance. Don't deny yourself the good things of life. So this is as far as action is concerned. Next comes emotion. How do you feel towards others? If you feel one with people, it's a wonderful feeling. You blend and harmonize with people. Never are you lonely. You're always a part of this whole family of the universe. A sentence that is from the Vedas that was practiced by every single Indian for centuries together was Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. What a fabulous thought. That the whole universe is my family. As against that, there are people who feel, oh, the world is against me, everyone's out to get me. What a terrible thing to believe. And then such people become profoundly lonely. They believe that the world is enemy territory and that you live life like an army of occupation in an alienated society. How would you feel if you were part of the American forces in Iraq? This is exactly what a person feels when he feels separate from everybody else. You feel threatened. You don't know when you're going to get attacked from where. And all the time you're so busy trying to protect yourself from imaginary enemies that you never find the time to connect with friends, connect with your own people. You believe that your people are enemies. This is the tragedy. And you're all the time trying to protect yourself. Keep secrets. There are mothers who are afraid that their children, you see, children are innocent. The mothers who are afraid that their children will let go of their family secrets. Why should you have secrets in the first place? Do you withhold information from your own people? Why must you think that everyone is against you? And this makes a terribly isolated life. How can we change this? Whoever you consider as an enemy, whoever you consider as an opponent, whoever you think is a competitor, try and look at the same person from a different angle and say, no, that person is not a competitor. He's actually a partner. How can this happen? The moment you let go of your trivial, petty preoccupations in life and identify with a higher ideal. The moment you identify with a higher ideal, instantly all these little pinpricks of life leave you. You're no longer concerned with who's your enemy and who's not, because you're dedicating yourself to a higher ideal. You think Mahatma Gandhi ever thought about who was with him or who was against him? You think Einstein ever worried about which scientist was his friend and which scientist was his enemy? You think Newton, all these